Actually, that should totally be the way we open this video. How many socks did you end up with?
We got 2 bags full. So CRN conference, quite an interesting conference. It was good to, I guess, go along. From our perspective, it was very much focused on, we wanted to see what the market, more our partners, I think, and the channel would actually think about DevBricks and what it does and how it works. Me, for myself, I think I come away from it going, there's a lot we need to improve on marketing. Booth was great, all of those things were great, and I think we got the attention we were after with that interactive sort of style of booth. But more so the way we're positioning the products. You know, a lot of people, they kind of went, all right, cool, you're building software with this tool, but they never really grasped, based on what was on the website, what it would actually do. And you found through an interview with CRN, and I even found through conversations with just additional people we brought along to the conference, they're like, oh wow, it actually does that. Your website does not say that, quote unquote. So I think we've taken a lot from that. It's already sparked a number of changes. Our pricing, we will be changing the pricing. And we have some pretty exciting things coming out on that pricing that we've been discussing as well. So there will be a freemium version. We can actually, disclose that. So what that looks like, information will come out very, very soon, but there will be a free version that people can actually use. Not a trial, an actual free version of the tool you'll be able to use. So that will come out very, very soon. So yeah, pricing and definitely our marketing were the 2 key things that for me come out of the conference. It was our goal really from the conference. What about yourselves, boys?
Yeah, look, I think we got a lot of value out of CRN, particularly a lot of insight into how the product can be used from the B2B perspective will be for a lot of those channel partners as well. A lot of the conversations I had over that week were very focused around, again, what the product wants to do, but then also how can that product help the clients of those channel partners, right? A lot of channel partners sitting there going, you know what, this is a really great tool. It may not be something that we can use directly right now because we're not doing active development, but our clients are, and we get asked these questions all the time.
Yep.
So this is probably set straight towards them.
Yep.
But I look at that and I disagree with every single partner that ever said that. And the reason being is I look at the last 20 years and you've probably been in the same boat. You look at providers, MSP providers, software solutions providers, doesn't matter what you do as a provider, there is always a gap or a system that will not talk to a system where you wish you could make that system communicate. It could be something you're using for timesheet management, being able to import that information accurately into invoicing. It could be reporting. It could be, you've got a lead generation tool like say Dynamics or Salesforce. They integrate, not easily, but you want to integrate those into other systems. MSP providers need to evolve. If you can automate those things, you make more money because you can do things faster. It means you can do more sales. It means you can do things more effectively, maybe reduce your accounting team size or make them more efficient while you scale. I think the problem is they're not thinking about the potential of, they're looking at it, that's a product that builds software, but they're not thinking about it from the perspective of, well, I have these challenges in my business today. Maybe that product could help bridge those gaps, which is what we're doing ourselves now. We're looking at, as the companies are growing and the different businesses, we have so many tools, 1 to run links, but 2 to run links people, and now to run DevBricks and Polyvision, they're all different tools. So we're looking at, well, how do we integrate these tools? And DevBricks will ultimately be part of that, tooling that we use to bridge those gaps. So we use Dynamics. And we need to integrate Dynamics into Xero, our accounting system. DevBricks will be able to do that. So being able to do those integrations. So I think that communication and that representation of what is capable of the product is still not clearly articulated to people. And that's one thing that we definitely need to change and improve. That I think the personas of use in the system is another thing we've kind of discussed. And I think when you look at where DevBricks is and how it's positioned in our, on our website and even in our general marketing, it's more, have a look at DevBricks. It cuts code or it does user story analysis, where really it's, I'm a BA. Well, how's that going to bring value to me? Well, you can write a user story and it'll assess it. And ultimately moving forward of, well, you don't need to write the user story anymore. And it'll define it based on a preset, functions that every system would have, and it'll build those user stories for you. Or I'm a dev and I need to cut code. So And there's a whole range of other capability we are introducing long term that we're not going to discuss today, but that will change and add additional personas. If you are a BA and you are watching this video, it's that whole, you writing a story, having a clear story to hand to a developer. We see as a consistent issue, always having this sort of career of, you're a developer and you talk to a BA and you get that information. You have to have multiple conversations. If you had a good user story, that conversation would be less. So you're able to have that capability to get a good story. And I think as a dev, you need that. You want that, you need that, and that's always a frustration that devs have. And BAs, the other side, it's you have to talk to devs. They're not all that bad, but we have our quirky things. And I think it's, the less time you have to spend talking to a developer or an architect means that's more time you can focus on good quality stories.
It's all about the efficiencies at the end of the day and bring those costs for software solutions down.
Yep, time to market. That was, I think, actually that was the other thing. We've been focusing so much with the product on the, you save time to code, save time to code. Yep. We haven't focused on the thing that actually matters is, save money to code. So it's do something cheaper, and effectively, instead of a developer taking maybe a day or 2 days or 5 days to build a feature, DevBricks doing it in minutes. We're focusing on the cost of that, whereas we're not focusing on the time of that saving as part of our marketing. So if you think of a program running for 12 months, and yes, you're going to ultimately build stuff faster, but you're also going to get that product to market faster, which is quite important for any organization, especially when we're kind of in a recession at the moment. Everything's about cost and time. If you're going to shift and change and adapt and become faster than your competitors, it's not just a cost play, it's a time play. So there'll be things that we'll bring out around that as well, I guess following on from the conference of how much time can this actually save in certain areas. We haven't released any of that because we want it to be accurate. We don't want to, say it's this when it's really this, like we've seen with a few other tools that have come out recently. We want to be, factual in our marketing.
Absolutely.
Rather than just, say something for the sake of it when it's not true.
Raises an interesting point. I haven't spoken to you guys about this one yet as well. We we tend to position this as well around user story analysis, user story analysis, user story analysis. For anyone who knows anything about agile methodologies, user story is pretty well aligned with that form of methodology. What about those companies that don't use agile? Does this tool mean anything for them? And I think the answer is yes. Because really when we say user story analysis, what we actually mean is requirements analysis. It might take the format of a user story, sure, but that doesn't necessarily preclude it from being used in other project management frameworks, things like waterfall, for example. So I think it's another valuable point to raise there as well. Like we talk about it as an agile tool, but it's more than that. It goes beyond the scope of just what a user story. It really addresses what requirements are at a core level, not just the specific format.
Yeah, and we can take those existing personas and expand on them. So when you are talking about other methodologies like waterfall, let's look at the solution architect persona, and we can introduce features that directly align to their abilities to solution architect the software up front. We certainly aren't pigeonholed or prevented from expanding into those spaces in any way. DevBricks, in essence, is a very generalized tool for being able to deliver software, and we can interoperate or work with any business methodology as we go forward. And that's what we're keen to hear is how are businesses doing their software delivery? If it's not agile, what is it? And how can we help to fill those gaps? At the end of the day, again, it's about supporting these different personas, these different business roles to help them deliver software faster with less risk and get it to market sooner.
Yeah, I think that kind of lends the eye more towards what we're doing with Links, and your role as head of PMO, Matt, is being able to align and train people on, as we're using DevBricks to build software for our clients, that we're going the other direction and saying to clients, well, if you're not operating under an agile framework or whatever framework, why not? And do you need it? And then as part of our offerings, being able to say to a client, all right, well, that's fine. What works for you? Maybe this. Now, how does DevBricks work in that ecosystem?
Absolutely.
Because if you're running Kanban, well, you're not running sprints, you're not sprint planning, you're not going down that path, then so be it. But DevBricks will still work in that ecosystem. So There's a lot to change in the market. We've seen so many clients that have not, they say, yeah, we run by Agile, and yeah, what you do is stand up. That's basically it. Out of the whole, all these different things you do in your ceremonies, yeah, they might do one or two things, and that does work for them. Probably not optimal, but it does work for them. So, but yeah, there's definitely things that we're doing with links, with DevBricks to try and bridge that gap. And if you are going down that journey where you are kind of looking at what can I do just even with Agile, you can definitely reach out to Links or Matthew directly and have a chat about what we've been doing in that space, and DevBricks' side, how that kind of works from a Links perspective, and how we're helping companies go down that path of assessing where we are today and what we need to do moving forward. And especially as tools like ChatGPT, DevBricks, Copilot, all these new tools come on the market. It's not your sprints or your ceremonies and things around Agile will not work the way they used to. They just won't, because generally things, they shouldn't be done off time, but they are. Every developer will go, that user story, points equals this, but that actually equals X amount of time, because the business needs to know how long these things are going to take. So with tools like DevBricks, time kind of goes out the window because you push generate code and let it go. And those things, 10 stories might take a sprint, DevBricks can do 10 stories in a couple of hours, or even less. So depending on the size of the stories. So it's a massive change to the way you plan your sprints and execute your sprints. So I think that one of the other big things is Jira. Mm-hmm. So we've been taking feedback from organizations, and I think from our first podcast to where we are today, it's been just over a month, I think it is, and since that first podcast, and now we've got Jira in the system. We have made changes to our pricing. We're going to do it again. And that's really to bring in the free version of the tool. And what's your thoughts about Jira and bringing in Jira as well on top of Java? We've got Java there now, so as a coding platform or a language, and now we're introducing Jira. What's your?
Yeah, certainly from a language perspective, and Java is obviously very widely used in the enterprise setting. We went to market with .NET. That's our Microsoft partnerships. Our big focus is with .NET from a Links perspective. And so we've started there. And now with the introduction of Java, we're really starting to round out the product set for a wider audience, a wider set of project delivery with our Java platform. So, starting to expand on those brick packs. Java has a very huge ecosystem of different technologies. So we've gone to market with what we typically see in the market. But we're also really flexible, love to get that feedback and hear about what other combinations of Java technologies people might use. And we can expand our brick packs to include lots of different variations now, both in the .NET space as well as Java. Going forward, we want to see how Java is used in the market, and then look to the next set of languages that we might introduce. That's really where our front-end technologies will start to come in with coming features around front-end to back-end integration. And really keen to get those to market as soon as we can.
Sounds fair. Look, and I've got to say, Java being one of the selected technologies coming up next makes me feel a little bit warm and fuzzy, because that's what I ended up learning. It's my first language.
Delphi's next. Turbo Pascal. Sorry, we're bringing a bit of Turbo Pascal.
Turbo Pascal. Now, if you want to get into my realm, let's go COBOL.
Nice.
We're not that old.
Across to the whole Jira conversation.
Yeah.
Look, I think Jira is going to be a huge expansion point for the product as well. What we've learnt recently, and particularly while we've been away at CRN and maybe doing some of our research, is that Jira actually holds Atlassian holds the largest market share in agile development methodology tools, holding somewhere above 90% of the actual market share in that space. So enabling Jira is actually going to enable us to utilize DevBricks not just across very select clients, but actually across a very broad spectrum of
It certainly opens up a wider market adoption, doesn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. Even some of the largest companies out there are using Jira. I know some of the largest retailers in Australia, they use Jira. Some of our partnerships that we have overseas also use Jira. Right, it's a big platform. It is a little bit different to DevOps as being the traditional platform that we've integrated before, which is why we need to obviously work on implementing it for Jira as well. But it will open up a whole new realm of possibilities in that space. What it will be really interesting to see is what that's going to look like, particularly when it comes down to the UI elements, because it is a little bit different from what our traditional product is. But I think, overall, what we're going to see is a big adoption in that space, just simply because of the amount of extra clients that have access to that platform, right? And the amount of integration it has with the other Atlassian products on the market.
I think it's, to kind of answer that question and go a little bit further on that, enhancements is what it's going to bring. So what Matt and I have been talking about, and the team collectively, is what we've seen in Jira and where we are with Azure DevOps and why we did Azure DevOps and why we did what we did first. Links works with it. Links works with Azure DevOps. It is one tool to do everything, really. And it's when we go into a project or a client, we want to have, yes, there's Octopus Deploy, there's TeamCity, there's all these other auxiliary tools we can use and have used, but where we say we own the project and we want to deliver the outcome, everyone's used to using Azure DevOps. We've got certifications in that. It makes sense to use and stick with those tools that we know. So, plus the fact that we could test it ourselves. So we stuck with things that we knew, .NET Core, that was our first, Azure DevOps, and now we're evolving that ecosystem. It's now, okay, well, what else is other people using? All right, Java pops up. Then we go the Atlassian suite, and that really is to drive that spread. Plus, we do have clients that are using Jira, that we needed to spread that and kind of give that exposure. So I think with the way that Jira works, even through the R&D that we've been doing at the moment, there'll be things that change there. Yep. Yeah, so lots of improvements that will take place between those two. But I think the main thing is we're very much guided based on what our clients are saying and what we're seeing in the market. So the conversation before around the CRN conference. A lot of it was around what we are seeing partners do, what they're building their tools in, what is the market actually doing. Yeah, we built it with Azure DevOps first, which was a smaller percentage of the market. But in saying that, you can do code generation and everything in that. Whereas with Jira, you can't. You need auxiliary tools to do so. So what you will see over the coming months is, Jira introduced, and that will be from from a user story analysis. And then you'll start to see auxiliary tools popped on top of that. So for example, Octopus Deploy, and you'll have that capability where you'll be able to start to do those builds. And then TeamCity and other tools like that will pop up. There is also additional tools around Terraform. We've got, what else was there? So Figma. So integrations into Figma to be able to bring your designs that you've done in there directly into the user stories and extrapolate the information out of that design into the story automatically. So there's a lot of stuff, additional integrations. What we built today is the core, and what we're doing now is wrapping it around. So if anyone's got suggestions on, I guess, anything else you kind of want, if you go, I want this language, we're aiming for a language every month. That's our goal, a language a month into the platform. And that will also include some of the front end, but there's some pretty big challenges to do what we're doing around front end. It's not an easy feat at all to deliver. No product out there at the moment has been able to do this. So we're actually, a lot of research and development on this to get it right and build it in a manner that, that's will deliver. But when that's done, DevBricks will, when it comes to feature delivery, will accelerate exponentially, because we'll have the ability to solely use DevBricks to build DevBricks.
And then obviously you said if people have ideas and feedback about which language packs they want to see and things like that, where do they put that feedback?
Yeah, so the feedback from a language pack perspective, if there is a country out there, and we are getting inquiries from other countries, but if there is a country out there that we don't have a language pack in there for, just reach out on support. So there is that the feature request off the main landing page where you can go and say, I want to add in whatever language pack into the system. So you can request that through that mechanism. It is a voting system, so get your friends to vote for that one if you want.
It helps us prioritize the next set of features. So yeah, we'd love to hear about that as well.
Yeah. So definitely if there's other countries or other languages you want included, just ask.
And I think if there's other challenges outside of the user story or business requirements analysis, I think from our experiences, that's the key thing we see the most in terms of setting projects up for success. But there's other specific problems that might appear in, say, just the medical sector around privacy, security concerns, that sort of thing. Tell us about those. We'd love to consider those and work those into the product so that we can address other software development and project delivery problems that might be more specific to individual markets as well.
Yeah, it even comes down to the data sovereignty thing, which we've been discussing as to we will, not a current, but we will have the capability moving forward that you can geolocate your instance. So you can say that I'm in America, I only want to run DevBricks in America, and it will run in America. So we are working on it at the moment. We launched it for Australia. Again, given Lynx's headquartered in Australia, we wanted to build it around that and then launch there and then expand. So we were testing based on real world scenarios. So there will be that evolution over the product, I'd say over the next 6 months, maybe sooner, but next 6 months where we start to introduce region selection for each of the tenants and then basically region execution for each of the tenants. So this all comes down to, which I'm sure anyone watching this would appreciate, a lot of compute, a lot of GPUs to run this sort of infrastructure. So we need to have that available. We do use Microsoft for our hosting. So it's a matter of we need to make sure that Microsoft has sufficient equipment in the data centers globally to be able to support this. So we'll be scaling as Microsoft is scaling. So it's a big space. AI is everyone's touching it, which means everyone's using this infrastructure, and there's only so many of these A100s sitting around. And they're very expensive. So yeah, for us to get this capacity, as we get it, we will be, which will change the way the system works. As we've built this product over the last while, what has been some of the challenges that we've kind of faced? I mean, I've seen a few that has been specifically around trying to build an offering that doesn't exist. We've got no baseline to measure ourselves against. From a marketing, pricing, all of the above. Like there is obviously tools out there that do bits and pieces, but nothing like what we've done. So I think that has been my biggest challenges are as to where we are today of how the heck do we price this? How do we position this when there is so many different personas to the system? How do we do that? Like new products when they come to market, even though they may have been new, they kind of have other ways of pricing because there is other products similar.
Yeah, there's existing pricing models that you can sort of adapt to your specific product offering. Yeah.
Whereas this is very difficult. You look at like what ChatGPT did and it had its own challenges. Whereas we are, moving down a path in our new pricing model that will be not similar to well, it will and won't. We'll have, models where it's open slather. So the free version will be go to town. You'll be controlled as to timing for execution and whatnot, and you'll be the people that are paying will have priority on execution. So you'll have the ability to do that. That is because we're running our own infrastructure and our own models, etc. That we're not using as a service offerings off the shelf. We're running this all ourselves, which gives us the ability to control cost and the way things will execute. So I'd say those have been the biggest challenges from my side. Has been that. What about technical side?
Yeah, I was going to say, from a technical side, it has definitely paled in comparison, even though we're using emergent technologies. A lot of it has come down to really how do we run those in a cost-effective manner. The hardware is brand new, so it is costly. The models are emergent, changing weekly with new models coming on the market, or even refinements to existing models that outperform the model from last week. So it's really about keeping up to date with those models and making sure that we're using the best model for each situation, having the ability to have health checks performed by one model because it's specifically trained in that area versus code generation, having separate models to handle those. And then being able to build that into a scalable platform that is global and be able to handle the influx of user requests coming into the system. We have heavy periods, quiet periods. We need to be able to scale elastically to deal with those sorts of things. But these are all fairly common enterprise level scaling problems from a technical perspective. yeah, the pricing and the cost effectiveness still far outweighs any of the individual technical challenges that we've had so far.
I'd probably add on that one thing we've kind of spoken about, but privacy.
Yep.
I think being the biggest thing that, everything we do is a concern for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's to make sure that privacy is, and your information is always kept secure. We know that we're playing with your code base. We know that we're playing with your requirements, which is your intellectual property here. So even with the new components we're building, where we'll ingest your code base, which will enable us to, if you have a front-end feature, it to know which REST API or whatever connection mechanism it's using to connect to that backend. And we need to have the code base to do so. So how do we secure that? So doing or using different technology to be able to do that, control it, be 100% certain that there is no way that these things could cross boundaries in any way, shape or form. And then furthermore, that model will never be anyone else's model. And that's been one of the issues with tools out on the market. It's, I train it, you train it. Well, we'll both share just for
Let's just share it. Wait a minute.
There's a bit of a problem there, which is why government is pushing back on GPT because they're concerned about that whole, is that my data that's being shared? Well, yeah, it is. It's going up to the cloud and that cloud now has it. Whereas with us, it's gone up to the cloud, but it's in your own database, basically, and controlled to you and you only. And when we're training our models, we're training them holistically. And it's more around prompt engineering and the way we're doing it with these systems and giving you the power of the, in the blueprint to control how the code is generated from that blueprint. So we're giving you the foundation and allowing you to ultimately extend. But I would say technically, I agree. This is like any other client that we're working with, yep, technically, but the privacy side has complicated the way that our architecture has had to work in order to meet our organization's requirement is 100% secure. Yep. And that's not just pen testing and securing it is your data is 100% secure.
Yeah, and to expand on that, we're seeing, say, OpenAI releasing enterprise versions similar to what Microsoft have in the offering, where you can now run these models independently from the rest of the community, have those safety assurances around having your dedicated model, but it really stops just at the model level. It doesn't take into account all of your intellectual property, your supporting commercial documentation and all of those other pieces of material which these platforms can still suck in. So our security model needs to accommodate your wider business solution and your wider business IP and privacy concerns. And we've built that fundamentally into our architecture to ensure that everything stays secure.
Well, everything stays in your environment, basically.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So, user stories, that's why we're connecting them through the tools that you already have. So if you've got a user story, as an example, if you have a user story in Azure DevOps, that story is obviously transmitted to DevBricks, but that information then goes back to Azure DevOps and stays in Azure DevOps. It's not kept in DevBricks. Whereas with the new models of being able to ingest the code, we're still working through the engineering on that, and we probably will never disclose how we're actually doing that engineering. But there is, things there that you think about when we've got your entire code base, securing that. We will obviously under privacy and whatnot. If you look at our privacy policies, it's pretty open as to how we handle things, control things, and we wanted that to be transparent. But there is a lot to consider, a heck of a lot to consider when it comes to that side of things, and making sure your data's safe.